Yin was basking in the glow of her newfound relationship with Jungkook. They had spent months building a connection that felt deeper than anything she had experienced before. Laughter, shared dreams, and stolen kisses filled their days, and she couldn't help but feel that they were on the brink of something beautiful. However, there was one thing she had not yet shared with Jungkook. She was pregnant. As the days went by, the reality of her situation weighed heavily on her. She had been planning to tell him soon, but a nagging fear held her back. What would he think? Would he be excited or overwhelmed? Would he want to be involved? She wanted to wait for the right moment, to ensure they were in a strong place together before revealing the news that would change their lives forever. But just as she mustered the courage to share her secret, life took a turn she never expected. One sunny afternoon, while she was browsing in a boutique, she received a call that sent her heart racing. "Yin, you need to come home. It's important," her friend said, urgency lacing her tone. Confused but sensing the gravity of the situation, Yin rushed home. When she arrived, she found Jungkook's mother, Mrs. John, sitting in her living room, her expression stern. "Mrs. John, what's going on?" Yin asked, anxiety pooling in her stomach. "We need to talk about Jungkook," Mrs. John said, her tone icy, "and I don't think you'll like what I have to say." As they sat down, In's heart raced. Mrs. Jeon wasted no time. "Jungkook is a talented young man with a bright future, and I have made plans for him that you need to understand." "What plans?" Yin asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm arranging a marriage between Jungkook and the daughter of my business partner. It's a mutually beneficial alliance, and I expect him to fulfill his responsibilities," Mrs. Jeon stated firmly. Yin felt the ground shift beneath her. "But Jungkook and I are together. We're building something real." "Real?" Mrs. Jeon scoffed. "You think this is a fairy tale? This is business, and Jungkook's future is at stake. You will do the right thing and end this relationship. If you don't, I'll ensure that you'll regret it." "Regret it? What do you mean?" Yin asked, her voice trembling. "I have my ways of ensuring that you won't be welcome in his life if you choose to interfere," she replied, her eyes cold and calculating. "You need to think about the consequences." In's heart sank. "You can't be serious. You're threatening me?" "Consider it a warning," Mrs. John said, rising from her seat. "Make the smart choice, Yin. I expect you to break up with him by the end of the week." After Mrs. John left, In was left in a haze of confusion and despair. She couldn't believe the ultimatum she had just received. Jungkook's mother didn't care about their love. She only saw him as a pawn in her game of business. The weight of her pregnancy pressed down on her. How could she break the news to Jungkook? How could she tear them apart when all she wanted was to build a life with him? But as she thought about the threats from Mrs. John, she felt cornered. That evening, Jungkook arrived at her apartment, a smile brightening his face. "Hey, I missed you. I thought we could celebrate the progress I've made on my new song together." Yin forced a smile, but her heart was heavy. She wanted to share her joy with him, but the fear of losing him loomed larger than ever. As they sat together, Jungkook wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. "You okay? You seem a bit off today." "Actually, I need to talk to you about something," she said, her voice trembling. "Is it about the pregnancy?" he asked, concern etched on his face. "I know you've been nervous about it." In took a deep breath, her resolve wavering. "It's more complicated than that. I think we need to take a break." "What?" Jungkook said, his expression turning to confusion. "Why? I thought we were doing well." "I just feel like there's a lot happening, and I don't want to complicate things for you," she stammered, unable to meet his gaze. "I think it's best if we end things." "Is this really what you want?" Jungkook asked, his voice laced with hurt. "I thought we were in this together. You can't just throw everything away like this." "I'm sorry, Jungkook," she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. "I care about you too much to drag you down with me." The days that followed were filled with anguish. Jungkook was devastated by the abrupt end of their relationship, and Yin was tormented by the choice she had made. Each day felt like a hollow reminder of what they could have had. She missed him more than she could bear. Then one night, unable to cope with the pain, She received a text from Jungkook asking to meet. Heart racing, she agreed, knowing this would be the moment she had been dreading. They met at a quiet park under the stars, and Jungkook was waiting for her, his expression a mixture of hurt and determination. "Why, Yin?" he asked, his voice strained. "Why did you really end things?" I thought it would be better for you," she stammered, unable to keep the tears at bay. "Your mother, she has plans for you. She wants you to marry someone else." Jungkook's face hardened, confusion and anger swirling in his eyes. "You let her dictate our lives? You think I'd choose her over you?" "I didn't want you to be trapped," In cried, frustration spilling over. "She's threatening me, Jungkook. I can't let her ruin your future because of me." "Do you really believe that I care what my mother thinks?" he shouted, his voice echoing in the night. "I want to be with you, In. You're my future." "Even if I'm pregnant with your child?" she blurted out, the words spilling from her lips before she could stop them. The air grew thick with tension as Jungkook processed her revelation. "You're pregnant?" he repeated, disbelief etched on his face. "I didn't want to tell you like this," In said, her heart pounding in her chest. "I thought it would be easier if I walked away." Jungkook took a step closer, his anger fading as realization dawned on him. "Easier? You think walking away from our child would be easier for either of us?" In stood frozen, fear and uncertainty swirling in her mind. "What do we do now?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Jungkook's expression softened, his determination clear. "We fight, Yin, together. I won't let my mother control our lives. I love you, and I love our baby." "But your mother," Yin started, "is just a woman trying to impose her will," Jungkook interrupted firmly. "We can stand up to her. I refuse to let her dictate who I should be with. I want you and our child." Tears streamed down In's cheeks, relief and love flooding her heart. "You mean that?" "Absolutely," he said, his gaze unwavering. "We're a family, and I'm not going anywhere. We'll face her together." In that moment, In felt a sense of hope blossom within her. Maybe they could navigate this storm together. "Okay," she nodded, determination shining in her eyes. "But we need a plan." With renewed strength, they devised a strategy to confront Mrs. John. Jungkook was resolute. He wouldn't let his mother's expectations dictate his life. They arranged to meet her in a neutral location where they could lay everything on the table. When the day arrived, Jungkook and Yin arrived at the elegant cafe, their hearts pounding in unison. Mrs. John was already seated, her expression cold as she noticed them approach. "What is the meaning of this?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "I expected to speak with you alone, Jungkook." "No, you will hear us both," he said firmly, taking In's hand. "We're in this together, and you need to understand that." Mrs. John's eyes narrowed, but she remained silent as they sat down. "Go on," she urged, her voice dripping with disdain. "I'm pregnant," In said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. "And Jungkook and I are committed to raising this child together." For a moment, silence enveloped the table. Mrs. John's expression shifted from surprise to anger. "This is unacceptable. You are making a huge mistake, Jungkook." "No, Mom," he replied, his voice strong. "The mistake would be to deny the love I have for Yin and our child. I won't let you control my life any longer." "You think you can just throw away everything I've worked for?" Mrs. John retorted, her voice rising. "This isn't just about you. It's about our family name, our reputation. You are a John, and you have responsibilities." "Responsibilities?" Jungkook echoed incredulously. "Is marrying someone I don't love really a responsibility? I refuse to live my life according to your dictates. Win and our child are my priority now." Mrs. John's eyes glinted with fury. "You'll regret this, Jungkook. You don't understand the consequences of your actions. If you go through with this, you'll lose everything. Your position, your future, your inheritance, it'll all be gone." "Then so be it," Jungkook shot back, determination blazing in his eyes. "I'm not afraid of losing money or status if it means I can be with the person I love and raise my child right." Yin squeezed Jungkook's hand, feeling empowered by his resolve. "You can't blackmail us into submission, Mrs. John. This is our life, and we're going to live it on our terms." "You're foolish, Yin," Mrs. John sneered. "You think you can win this battle? You have no idea what I'm capable of. I could ruin you both. Jungkook leaned forward, his gaze unwavering. Then go ahead. Do your worst. But know that you will never break our family apart. Our love is stronger than any threat you can throw at us.